Would entertain a motion. I'm going to read this from the letter of intent that was provided with our various changes. So entertain a motion that the Development Authority would enter into a sign the letter of intent and enter into a contract for the sale of the property we normally call the Willingham property that is located at the corner of Central Avenue, Colville Avenue, and Willingham, that borders also on I-85, with the following terms. The purchase price, or our sale price, would be $725,000, with the purchaser paying any and all real estate commissions, and the Development Authority's closing costs not to exceed $5,000. Sorry, I did not mention, the Miller Lowry Development is the name of the purchaser. To close on the property January 31st, 2019, unless the land disturbance permit has not been issued. In that case, the buyer has the right to extend the contract 60 days to allow additional time for the land disturbance permit to be issued. All parties agree the development shall yield 14 to 20 townhome building pads. All parties agree the development shall include 2 commercial building pads containing approximately 7,500 plus or minus leasable square feet on ground level. It is possible the buildings may have an additional second story to be built in the exploration phase. And all of that is subject to their due diligence period. The Development Authority will encourage the city to work with the developer to create traffic calming measures with parallel parking along Colville, possible parallel parking along Willingham, and adding stop signs at the intersection of Willingham Drive and Elkin Street. The Development Authority will encourage the city to make their best effort to work with Miller Lowry Development on the exterior fence of the property, specifically the fence along Avenue, to make it as appealing as possible for the city. That fencing would be subject to final approval by the Development Authority.
Excuse me.
The development will have its own homeowners association that will be responsible for maintaining the property in all common areas. The buyer will deliver a draft contract within 10 days of the signed letter of intent. And the motion should authorize the chairman to sign all necessary agreements pending legal review.
So
Did I
moved.
miss anything?
So moved, Madam Chair, with the caveat that part of the contract be that should this property not be developed as
Pretty good.
reasonably as presented tonight, that the city would exercise, or the Development Authority would exercise the right of first refusal on the property.
Thank you for adding that. Let's write that down.
And is 10 days enough for you guys
10 days
to
from,
get a contract?
that's from today or from,
From the-
Whenever the
when we have
LOI
this
gets
ready.
signed.
is it getting signed today?
We're going to have to clean it up.
Yeah, yeah, we will.
Yeah, so if like, for early next week, if we get it, 10 days is fine.
Okay.
We can prepare it.
10 days to set
We
like a
want
time.
you to have enough time.
So,
We want to miss it. Okay,
I made,
anything else?
I moved with the caveat of the,
I've had that and I've written that in.
At the same cost.
Yes.
Yes, at the same price. Got it. Thank you.
somebody needs to second.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Not, all in favor, raise your right hand. It is unanimous, thank you. This is very exciting,
Yes, it is.
I look forward to working with each and every one of you.
so we will,
so much.
be in touch, and you and I will work on getting this
Great.
written up.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, and thanks for taking time to come out
Absolutely.
and for coming to Hateville.
Absolutely.
It's an exciting
Look forward to
project.
working with you.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Okay,
Mr. Betts,
our next order of
I'll
business.
park across the street.
Oh,
Y'all across the street.
make sure they can get out the door, I guess. Next order of business is, we still have quorum, so I'm gonna move along with being director. Next order of business is approval of our minutes. Did everyone get a chance to read those, or? Well, they were sent out earlier. And there was one change made to the version you received in the email. The version you received in the email had in the financial report that the authority had $520,000, which we do not. We have approximately $100,000.
That was what I was gonna ask about. Okay. Yeah, I saw it was corrected on this.
Yeah,
Um,
I just wanted, in case someone read that one but hadn't looked at the one in front of you, I just wanted to point that out.
I have a correction on 6.1 review of bylaws, which says that I said that the next time the authority talks about the bylaws, it needs to be a joint meeting between, what I had said was that it needed to be advertised as a joint meeting of the Development Authority and the Development Authority of the City of Hateville. Because, we did not advertise it as such. So, we make sure we advertise it on the agenda. Just a little wording, but just to clarify. There was a lot going on at that time. I know you were typing up a lot of that then.
Any other comments?
That's all I call.
If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval. The caveat that we make that cheap update that John just mentioned. So motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? All right, thank you guys. Financial report.
I have some copies if you all want. I included that in the packet.
I read through it.
Yeah, it's long, but and so basically what happened during the month was we, collected our mortgage payment that we collect each month. We paid our grass cutting fees, and that's about all that happened in the month. It was in July, so we did, make our, a transfer to pay the, bond payment that was due. We talked about it at the last meeting. That was the sum of our activity. So, if someone has a question, we'll file that away for the files. Old business. 748 Virginia Avenue, the old gas station on the corner. We have a little bit of an update on the environmental. David, would you update us?
So they sent me the report late Friday afternoon, and I don't do that, so I didn't understand it. So I got to set up a call with them for this morning to kind of get where we are and what the next steps are. And so I'll send it to Katrina tonight so that she can send y'all the report and you can see the whole thing. But basically there is a fair amount of contamination. I asked him, I said, can you give me some kind of sense, because I don't do this all the time to understand it. And he said, well, it's not the best, but it's not the worst. He said, if I was giving it a scale of 1 to 10 contamination, I'd say it's about a 5. So it's going to depend on how strict the EPD wants to be. So the next step is this report they've done. We've done everything EPD asked us to do, because they asked us to do a second round of testing to see how big the plume had gotten and what the concentrations were. So this report has all of that. We have to approve it, so there's really nothing for us to do other than say you can send it to the state. They send it to the state, and they say it takes about a month to hear back. At that point, that concludes the contract that we did for this, and the next step is they will work with us to create what's called a Cap B. I think this was the Cap A. So that is figuring out the remediation steps and how we want to do it. So a few things, just, this is not for deciding tonight, but so that you have background information to start thinking about it when this comes in. I asked, could the building be used while the remediation is going on? And he said it could. We won't have a no further action letter, so it would not be wise to sell it to somebody else, because if they didn't do the remediation, then 10 years from now they could come to the city. But we could lease it to somebody as long as we still have control to make sure the remediation is done. He said the price will depend on how fast we want it done. If this was CVS that bought it and they wanted to open up a CVS, they would just spend a fortune and dig up the whole ground and get it done in 3 months. If we're okay with it being something that takes a couple of years, where there's just equipment out there that works quietly, it'll make it a lot cheaper. And so I said, of course, y'all will have to make that decision. So probably what we need to have them do is come in and make a proposal once we get this back from, make a presentation so that you can ask them questions directly.
That's where they put the wells in and pump the water out.
Exactly.
They did it forward.
So I asked him, I said, I know I'm not holding you to this, you don't know what we're gonna have to do, the state will have to tell you, but some ballpark, is this an $80,000 problem or is this $1 million problem? He said, of course, I don't know, but similar sites, it's taken maybe $300,000 to clean it up. But again, the faster you want it, the more expensive it is. If you can take a long time, then it costs less. So we're just going to need to weigh all that stuff when it comes in, and it may make sense to own it and lease it and do that. The other option is we could look into going for brownfield grants. And another city that I work in, they have a grants writer. She's actually planning and zoning person, but she does their grants because she just likes doing it and gets millions of dollars in grants all the time. So we might talk to her and talk to other grant writers that do this, and we might just kind of like try and hold off a few months and see if we could get a grant to pay for it. So we don't have the answers, but we're a step closer to it. And I think if we get this turned back in a month when they come out for the Cat B, then we can decide, do we go ahead and renovate and lease it, what kind of remediation we want to do and all that. So hopefully within 4 to 6 weeks, we can get some kind of game plan to figure out what we want to do.
We did.
It was donated.
Zero. It was taken,
The owner walked away from
The
it.
owner walked away from it for property taxes.
I can't remember what we.
Is it about 60,000?
60,
Is this
I think
40 and the
it's
other was
40 and
20?
20,
I could be wrong, but it's about that. So it's a valuable piece of property
Yeah.
once we get the remediation done. If we can get a grant for part of it, we might make a profit on it when we sell it.
Yeah.
They said typically the EPD doesn't make you do something more than 2 years, even if you go the slow route to get the no further action letter. He also told me that because this is not in a residential area, there's no well nearby, and it's not going to be a residential use, the EPD typically does not make you clean it up to like absolute pristine, and so it makes it a lot cheaper because it's in a commercial area. But again, all of that'll, so we should get a lot of it back when it's sold. Maybe there's a profit, maybe we lost 50,000, I don't know. But we do have an asset that's valuable.
Right, I'm just.
Yeah, I know, it's not great, but.
Madam Chair, I would recommend that we get a legal opinion about, from a liability standpoint, about what steps we should take. Because I wouldn't want somebody to come back on us down the road,
Do you want to go ahead and send this to
Do you
the
wanna wait till we get the
state?
response back from the state?
Probably so.
So go ahead and send that back, and then.
I would think
do this.
so.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good idea.
No, I
I
think
just
so.
think we
We don't-
should just let the lawyers glance at it.
Right.
I totally agree, and that's been my whole concern. There would probably be somebody that would just say, hey, I'll buy it from you, and I'll take care of it. And to my understanding, again, this is not what I do all the time, but to my understanding that even if they signed a document that said they took all liability, if they have no money or disappear, the EPD doesn't care, and we don't own it anymore, but then all of a sudden we've got to remediate it and we don't own it. So we need to get that figured out and be very careful.
That's the same thing with Ford property. I mean, that was.
But Ford did it from a legacy standpoint. Ford did not want to leave, a corporate scar at their departure. So,
Yeah, but they also said, we don't want, when we leave, that's it, we're done with this.
yeah, but that was after they put the wells in. They had those wells running for well over a year and a half, sitting up there pumping all that stuff up
Well,
over there.
being one of the reasons why they went with Jacoby, because
Right,
Jacoby,
right, for the cleanup.
yeah, Jacoby didn't have to do all that.
Right.
And I know that number sounded expensive, but I actually breathed a little sigh of relief because I just did
Yeah, it's not a million.
basic internet searches and I saw a lot of operating gas stations that had this thing over to the side and it cost $800,000, $1 million for them to get it up. So it could be worse.
Mhm.
And it may be less than this, we just don't know.
So we'll see when we get the report back, and, I think, Alan, that's a good point, that once we do get, whatever we get some, legal opinion, especially before we start to
Yes.
use the
Rocket
property.
it or whatever.
Well, I would like to have them come in and
Oh, I think that's a great
explain-
idea.
I think we should.
Explain to
If
us.
we get the report, they come in so that, and so think of any questions you may have along the way.
And I don't want it to be a when it gets to that point, it's decision time. Up till now, we've just had to do what we had to do, but I don't want to be the filter for that information. I think they need to be here and
Right.
ask them directly.
Yes.
Agreed, no offense.
Totally
No,
different,
no
that's a
offense.
totally different animal.
Yes.
So that's the update.
All right?
Wish I could have told you it was the all clear. But
Well, it could have been worse.
Could have been.
Well, the next gas station we get, maybe you can.
Okay, so our next item of business, consideration action on the landscaping contract revisions. So I don't know if anybody had a chance to read over, Crystal, updated it.
Mhm.
What was the changes that we had talked about last time, right?
Right. So,
Did they have any feedback on the insurance requirements?
from the city.
Yeah, the Sawgrass guys, did they have any feedback?
Oh,
on
we
that?
haven't given them that.
Oh, okay, so we haven't.
Because this, you know, they, it
That's
may
right,
or
we were gonna do
may
it.
or may
Yeah,
not
do
be
it on-
them.
yeah, do it on-
However, you know, I guess by, at least by January, a large portion of what gets cut will,
Be
if
gone.
things go well, will not be on
In the contract.
on here. But anyway, that's irrelevant, we have to function in between now. But I don't know, did anyone have anything that,
I think the changes we made that are here are, I mean, that's what we,
That's what we asked for.
that's what we asked for.
okay,
I did have one question, but only for it, were we keeping the pickup of the city of Hakeville line? Cause I got.
we talked about both ways, didn't we?
Yeah, I didn't get a confirm.
We did talk about both, was it their responsibility to
Take
remove the
limbs,
trees
okay.
and limbs and any plant debris, or are we okay that we work with the city and they leave it at a pickup place like we all leave it at our house?
I think for now we could leave it, because like you say, at some point, this will be a moot point. Because the city, you know, may be looking at privatization, so that might not be as economically feasible for us in the future as it is now.
Is everyone okay with leaving it that way? Okay, because that's how it's written at the moment.
Another question, on the third page, G, they were asking, do we want to say or sign without written consent of authority? I didn't get, I don't know what was
Contract
that.
agrees not to assign this agreement without the written consent of the authority.
I think we should leave that in
I
there.
think we should leave that.
Because we don't want them to.
Be able to assign it to somebody that we
Yeah,
don't bid, and we're not able to vet them.
Right, exactly.
Anything else? Okay, then we will work on getting that, and then, you know, we had talked about that we would place this for bid. I'm not sure exactly how that works, I haven't done that. We place that on the city's website, is that our process?
Yeah, there's some state procurement site
Yes, yeah,
that we have to put it on.
Okay. Okay, all right. So once we get everything finalized, then we will do that with this,
Yeah.
these points being the stipulation. Okay. So I would entertain a motion to approve the contract as written and with, or we're just leaving those things, we have not made any changes.
I make a motion to
favor? So, thank you very much. Next order of business, consideration action on bylaws pending legal review. So we've been talking about making some changes, which would, once we agree with our changes, then of course we would run it by the law firm. There it is. Okay.
Page 2 on the back. Are we leaving it as one person signing or two people signing?
On Jack?
Yes.
I think it,
I
I think it should be
I
two.
think it should be two.
And who are those people to sign?
So, would we want it to necessarily be the chairman and treasurer, or any two officers?
I think chairman and treasurer, I mean, or secretary, who,
Secretary, treasurer?
secretary or secretary treasurer.
I would leave, put
Did you want the
something
vice
in there
chair?
to allow some wiggle room in case, you know,
We went for a time
Somebody's-
period and didn't have a secretary
Right,
because
right.
Jennifer left and that
So,
position was vacant.
I would say we need to have some assignability, maybe.
That's the
In
only
case
thing.
somebody's like, you know, out with a health problem or something and out of pocket for a month or so.
Somebody can.
So, well, we have 3 officers.
Right, I would say, what were we gonna say, the treasurer and any officer? You know, so you got chairman, vice chairman,
And typically, we've had the secretary treasurer be one
treasurer.
person.
Right. That gives you a safety valve.
Yeah, if somebody's sick, like if the chair's in the hospital or
Right.
something.
Or the treasurer.
Yeah.
Right.
Not the chair.
Don't let her take all this health stuff on by herself.
So treasurer and any officer.
Right. And just logistically getting over to, the checkbook is here at the city, so that means you gotta, you have to
Right.
come here.
Turn down here. Yep.
Not that we all live that far away. Okay, any other?
Pretty
Been
sure
selling
it was
it.
at Lake.
Yeah. Been selling a lot of property lately, so it's, the traffic's getting terrible.
Any other?
The only thing that I think number 4, on page 4, section 7,
Page 4, section 7.
that if we employ a manager or hire someone to work for us, or that they should report to the board, to this board.
What it says on
Under seven,
Section
page
7,
4,
page
section
4.
7.
Currently, it says the manager may be signed.
But it says that who shall be under the direction and control of the board of directors.
Right, but it was treasurer, I'm just,
Yeah, so she's marked that, she's marked, so
marked
we have marked
treasurer
that
out.
out, we have the board of directors
Oh,
or
sorry.
a designee determined by the resolution of the board. Are you saying you would strike the designee part and just say to the board?
No, I think it's just where it says manager may be assigned any and all responsibilities of the treasurer.
no, I don't know, why would we,
Why do we even have that?
why would we do that?
Yeah.
I don't,
Well, you would wanna have a manager, I think if the development authority wanted to hire an employee,
which,
that's different from the treasurer.
right, so if we hire
I say
an
we strike the
employee, that should be, why would we just designate manager? Why would we not just say employee?
Oh, instead of, it could be any type of role.
Any
Right.
type of role that they.
And that who, if it's someone other than a city employee, like that acts as secretary treasurer, they report to the board.
Yes.
If we ever do that, they report directly to the board, not to the treasurer. Originally, it was, this person was reporting to the treasurer.
It looks like that, I wasn't here when the original bylaws were written, but it looks like it was almost written as though, in case, like the development authority might hire a manager over the
Executive director or
financial,
something.
Like a financial
Right.
manager
financial
and a
manager, the
treasurer.
way the old verbiage was, even though it doesn't really say that, and I think that's where that last sentence comes from, the manager may
I say
assign
we
it.
strike that last sentence.
And just
And
say
so-
employee, if we ever hire an employee,
May employ
A person,
a person, yeah. I don't wanna say employee.
Alan, do these go back to when this
I'm assuming these go
originally?
The
way
original-
back to post,
version had Betty Barnett's
yeah.
signature, the one I had, and I don't know where that goes back to, I wasn't here, but.
Petty Sharon after. So these have been modified since the creation of the authority.
So the board of
And the
directors
creation
may
of
employ
authority
a
goes back
person
to-
who shall not be a member of the
27.
board of directors, and who shall be under the discretion and control of the board of directors, period.
Mhm.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Yes.
Period. And then do we not need that last sentence? That's just,
I'd say we strike that.
I don't
last
think you
Yeah.
do.
that's what I thought.
Yes, we do not need that.
Okay,
Because the manager might not necessarily be hired for financial reasons.
yeah, I mean, yeah, this leaves it
Person,
open,
yeah,
person.
person.
Okay. Next,
The next page, section 2, now this was awfully wordy and confusing for me. I personally would like to see that we have to have at least 24 hours notice for any meeting. I don't,
Wait, what?
in section 3,
Oh, I thought you said section 2.
she did, but she meant, I think she meant 3.
well, section 2, yes, section 3, you're right, yeah. Section 3.
The part where it says when special circumstances
Right, right.
occur and are so declared.
This came, is this the language that came from, because I asked Crystal to get the,
The
open meetings
Act.
Open
language and then be sure that it
That
was
we
inserted.
we're mirroring the
Right.
open meetings.
Right.
So is that where this language,
Yes.
because I see you have the OCGA
Mhm.
code there.
Would you all want to shorten that?
I mean, yeah, I mean, we can, I'm just telling everybody where it came from.
If this is from the open meetings, then I think that's
Just
sufficient.
leave it, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say. Because we, you know, like on the city side of things, we very, very seldom, I think I can count maybe 1 or 2 times in the last 20 years that we've had it, like an emergency meeting, so
Mhm.
you want to allow yourself the ability to do that, but stray from it. You don't want to, you don't want to make that your norm, because you want to stay away from anything that might give the impression that you're trying to slip something by.
Right.
So. Because then people will be there with their cameras and they'll catch you.
Okay. So are we good with that section of that, as long as, all right, so, next page.
That change for section 5, that's what we agreed to. And Crystal, I have to tell you, my hat's off to you for getting any of that.
For catching all of
All
that,
the
yeah.
conversations.
She's good.
Seems like you did a good job.
And then the last page is,
All that and snacks too.
Yeah.
well, that was not as painful as I thought it
Oh,
would
it
be.
looks good to me.
Okay,
But now we also need to meet to do the changes for the other development authority.
yeah, we need to, you know, and I don't have that on that agenda, so I'll have to add that for the
Next meeting.
So maybe we get, but here's a thought. Except for the terms of the members, for the most part, the bylaws for that, for the statutory authority mirror this one.
Mhm.
So perhaps we get legal review on this,
Before
And-
we,
and then-
before we take
and
it to
just
the.
make the
right, and then we
Statutory
just make the
authority.
appropriate changes on the statute, so
I'll
we don't
make
have to go
that,
through it twice.
I'll make that in the form of a motion, Madam Chairman,
Second.
that we have these reviewed.
Oh.
Huh?
Second.
Well, it says pending legal review.
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't do that.
Well, what we need to vote, so.
Oh, she's second.
Second, all in favor? All right, thank you. And then once we have that one, we can tweak the changes for the other, and that way we just have legal review ones. How's that? Sounds good. Okay? Thank you guys for all your work on that. New business. Filming request at 748 Virginia Avenue. So, this week, and I spoke with the gentleman today, had a request by a filming company. They're actually filming at Treat Love, is where they're on location. However, that parking lot is pretty full with its employees and customers, so they can't really spare the parking. So the request is not to film at the gas station. They want to park over there, park their trucks there. And it would be Monday from about 7 to 7. I went over there and kind of walked around where the wells are. That was my concern. We spent a lot of money on this property, working toward remediation. I don't know how sensitive it is if someone parks over them. You know, I try to keep, when I walk, I try to keep those yellow ribbons pulled around them. So I'm not sure if that's a good thing or bad thing. I just wanted to bring it up. I asked him, I said, well, I assume there's compensation for that. And he said, well, typically we pay about $500 if we're parking our trucks somewhere. So, of course, I would ask for him to pay more than that, but that's my only concern, and I wanted to get some input about it. So
And
that
that-
was just a vacant piece of land, I might not think,
That gravel, I've seen cars get stuck in that. I didn't go look, I should have looked. I don't think you found them, but I think there's supposed to be wells in that gravel. I'm afraid if a big truck got in there and got stuck, they could knock the top off of it and this.
Collapse a well.
So,
Yeah.
so let me ask this question, David. The reason that we wrote that off was because we didn't want vehicles there.
Yeah, they don't need to be on that. Well, we roped it off because
Yeah.
they
because
had
they were
like,
working.
they
over
were gonna
there.
have 5 different stages, and I never knew what day it was gonna be, so I didn't want them to show up and it's covered with cars. But they were never supposed to be on the gravel area, because I've seen cars get stuck in that. But we roped off the whole thing while they were doing work, which is now done.
Okay. So the roping off was to make sure it was vacant
When the trucks came.
Okay, not
the-
necessarily to keep cars out.
To keep it off the gravel, not as much the pavement.
I could talk to Lee, if there's an interest, I could talk to Lee about having something a little, maybe, I don't know if we have any of those metal kind of barricades or something that would partition that gravel area a little more.
Or we could do some little posts and a chain, something more
We
permanent.
don't have a lot of time,
Well,
so.
and I'm afraid
We're-
the size of the trucks, they're gonna need that whole pad in the
Mhm.
around.
Those
I'm
trucks
afraid
are big
heavy
trucks.
trucks.
Well, he said they would not
Big
be their large, like, trailer trucks, but
I don't think they'd have enough pavement. If we start roping it off for the gravel part, which is kind of, well, it's good size, I'm afraid there wouldn't be enough room.
I mean, I can ask him that
Yeah.
and tell him that, but I just
And
have
then if-
concerns about it.
What
If
about-
there's damage,
It's not worth it.
any fee that we charge would be outweighed by it.
Yeah.
Damage still on the triangle piece, the gas station?
No, they,
No, well, or never on
Oh, okay.
I think we just say no.
Yeah, I say we
Let
say
them
that.
talk to the dialysis clinic.
That's what was my thought too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
my
They-
fear
they
was
talk
it's not
to
worth trying to
them. We don't
police where
need
they park for that.
Another headache with that
Right.
property.
If it was
Yeah,
$5,000.
right.